Good evening, friends. Welcome to the pause button. We are on at a special time. We're usually on at 4:30 every other Tuesday Eastern Time. But because the topic of gaslighting has generated a lot of response and a lot of interest, we decided to have a special episode of the pause button, which is going to be about setting emotional boundaries, which is the best thing that you can do with a gaslighter. And the reason we are on it at 7:30 is we are then going to have a live discussion panel around 8:15 or so. So welcome. This is the pause button prime time. How fun. How fun. So yeah, gaslighting. We did the episode about 2 weeks ago. It was called Where is My Mind? Because we can often feel like we have lost our minds when we're being gaslighted. And what we focused on in that last episode was how to really just kind of reclaim your gut instincts. You know, our gut never lies, our body never lies. And often with the gaslighter, when they're successful, we begin to doubt what we're perceiving. So that was one solution to present. Second solution is, again, emotional boundaries. So what are emotional boundaries? You know, who better than to read the official pause button definition of emotional boundaries than the Honorable Judge Stern?
Thank you. The pause button defines boundaries as separation we humans need in order to feel safe, valued, and respected. It is how we teach others to treat us by establishing a clear line of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Yeah, I imagine in your line of work you have to practice very strong emotional boundaries.
Oh, yes, I must maintain my boundaries at all times when I'm in the courtroom. However, I consider myself off the clock at this moment, so I'm going to ask you a deeply personal question in front of our audience.
A deeply personal question in front of our audience.
Yes, a deeply personal question in front of our audience.
No, Judge, you may not.
Good answer. I was just testing your emotional boundaries.
Of course you were.
Always glad to help.
That Judge Stern. He always comes up with something to illustrate what we're talking about today. Thank you, Judge Stern. So, okay, who needs to strengthen their emotional boundaries? I'm just being very transparent, and I believe I said this in the last boundary episode, is boundaries have been just a life lesson for me. It just seems to be never ending. So let's see how your emotional boundaries are. So I just came up with a very informal quiz. And Renee, you can show the first slide. Oh, thank you so much. That was so quick. So, okay. Now the key question here is, do you consistently? Okay, is this consistent? Not just a couple times, but do you consistently sacrifice your needs for the sake of others? Do you consistently let another person's feelings dictate your own? Do you consistently jump when someone says jump? Do you consistently feel guilty when telling others no? And we can go to the second slide. We've got 3 more questions here. Do you consistently have a hard time speaking up when you're not being treated well? Do you consistently like to please other people so that they will like you? And this one is very similar, but there's a slight difference here. It's a big one. Do you consistently crave being liked by everyone, even those who mistreat you or others? So, if you answered yes to any of those 7 questions, chances are those emotional boundaries need to be strengthened. And truly, what that simply means is that you are a nurturer, you're a caregiver, you were probably raised to put other people first. And that's a very virtuous thing. It truly is. Yet, that makes you more attractive to those who gaslight. And there's a lot of books written about sort of the gaslighter empath dance. Both tend to be kind of drawn to each other. And one of my favorite books, and copy is in my office. I forgot to get it, but it is a book by Dr. Christiane Northrup, who is a Hay House writer. And she has this wonderful book called Dodging Energy Vampires. I really like it. She just puts everything in very personable language. It's not clinical at all. But in that book, she talks about how gaslighters are attracted to the caretakers of the world, the empaths of the world. And, we can often be easily manipulated and controlled if we allow it. And that's what a gaslighter does crave the most, is that type of power, that type of control. So look up that book if you so wish to. And so that's what we're going to do today. And after this very short musical break, we are going to do a role play about how do you respond? How do you respond to a gaslighter? How do you respond setting clear emotional boundaries? But first, we are going to take this musical break. I call this my boundary song, and it is called Won't Let You In. I did the right thing, no doubt in my mind, when you reached out to me for a second time. I was nice, but you couldn't see, kept my kindness for me, and I won't let you in, won't let you in, I won't let you in again. You did a bad thing, no doubt in my mind, when you left what we had high and dry, left me fading memories as some years went by. So why should I let you in? Now let you in. I won't let you in again. Forgive, but I don't forget.
what you're capable of, and what you did, I know you just might do again. Your form of apology I accept on my terms, and please don't misunderstand these words. I'm forgiving you only for myself, that's for sure. And I won't let you in, won't let you in. I won't let you in again.
That is a song I wrote about 2 years ago. Someone had given me the opportunity, as I look at it now, to draw a very clear emotional boundary. And in fact, I wrote that song sitting in this chair. I wrote it in like 10 minutes because I really meant it. This had come up in a previous episode. It's sort of like, well, you can get into a pattern with the gaslighter. Oftentimes they will give you what you need to hear. They'll apologize, but then that pattern of gaslighting just keeps repeating itself. And that's why I wrote that verse about accepting his apology, but on my terms, for me and not for him. So anyway, it's a very empowering song for me. I hope you all got something from it. So, in the last episode of Where Is My Mind, there was a role play, as I call the OG pause button players, Brian Call and Kathy Rice. They reenacted how a gaslighter can respond. And I'm taking this one step further with our new modern pause button players, and we are going to reenact how do you respond to those exact gaslighting remarks. So, getting my papers all ready here, the script. We take you back to the last episode where Charles Boyer in the role of Gregory and Ingrid Bergman in the role of Paula reenacted some basic gaslighting tactics, including minimization, denial, blaming, and invalidation. This week on the pause button, we are going to add the gaslighting tactic of dictating feelings to the role play. So, friends, we now begin the role play for how to set emotional boundaries with a gaslighter. And first, we bring you the tactic of minimization.
You really hurt my feelings. I cannot believe you told everyone at the party a personal secret that I trusted you with.
Paula, why are you being so sensitive? You take things so personally. You need a thicker skin.
My feelings are valid, and I don't appreciate you telling me I'm being too sensitive.
Now, if Paula were still being gaslit, she would consider the possibility of being too sensitive. She would probably accept the premise that it is her fault for being too sensitive. And her focus would be on this and not Gregory, who violated her trust. Next, we will role play the tactic of denial.
You really hurt my feelings. I cannot believe you told everyone at the party a personal secret that I trusted you with.
Oh, Paula, please. I would never do that to you. Are you crazy? What would make you think I would do such a thing? Do you realize how much you are hurting my feelings, Paula?
I know what I heard and saw.
Now, again, if Paula were under Gregory's spell, she would begin to doubt what she felt. She would begin to doubt what she heard and what she saw. Next up is the gaslighting tactic of blaming.
You really hurt my feelings. I cannot believe you told everyone at the party a personal secret that I trusted you with.
Well, you never should have told me the secret in the first place, Paula. You know very well that I can't keep a secret.
You violated my trust.
A gaslit response would be for Paula to apologize or feel confusion about why she wanted personal information to be kept confidential in the first place. Instead, she maintained her focus on her trust being violated. Next up, invalidation.
You really hurt my feelings. I cannot believe you told everyone at the party a personal secret I trusted you with.
Oh my God, Paula, you are such a baby about these things. There should never be secrets. That's my motto.
I am allowed to explore these topics in conversations with you. Do not tell me I'm being a baby.
Excellent response, Paula. Now, if she were gaslit, she would accept the premise of being overreactive and shift her stance on personal information that, you know what, maybe it is all fair game. Maybe there doesn't need to be a boundary with personal information. Last and certainly not least is the very common gaslighting tactic of dictating feelings.
You really hurt my feelings. I cannot believe you told everyone at the party a personal secret that I trusted you with.
You should be feeling grateful that I even went to the party with you. I did not want to go, but I went and it was a great time. Think about the fun we had, Paula. We had a lot of fun at the party, so let's let the good outweigh one small negative.
Do not tell me how to feel. This is how I feel.
Well done, Paula. Your feelings are yours and to be honored, not dictated, and not minimized. So this concludes the pause button players role play. And if there's one overarching thing to remember, or a few overarching things to remember, it is this: stand firm in your perceptions, own your stance, and don't take the bait. Gaslighters are really good about just dangling the bait to deflect away from them being responsible. And also let go of the need to prove. It'll just be a never ending battle if you get into just wanting to prove that what you are perceiving is real and the truth. You'll just go in a circle with the gaslighter. So thank you, Renee and Rory, our new pause button players. Thank you so much for that. And what I was thinking as we were doing the role play is I would be more than happy to let the script for that become available just so you can see the responses. I think it's really helpful just to see it in writing. So we'll figure out a way to make that available to you just so you can see the responses and practice them, do them. And as you could probably tell, Paula's responses were very brief and concise. They didn't go into a lot of detail. It was all about the facts and just owning the experience, owning her feelings. So we'll make that available just so you've got it in writing. Okay, there goes another sheet. I almost feel like David Letterman with all the pieces of paper flying around. So I am wondering if we have any. Here we go. Renee, you read my mind. Julie, yes. Gaslighting was also used in the movie The Burning Bed. Oh my gosh. I remember that movie. Yes, you have dealt with narcissists and you know how they operate. Yeah, it is very tied to narcissism is very tied to gaslighting. It is part of their, it's in their tool belt. It's part of their playbook and what they will do to maintain power and control. And I'm wondering if we have any questions. with our viewers or any comments before we move into the guided meditation. Certainly want to spend some time with that. And Renee or Rory, if you have any questions as well, we can certainly bring them up. Thank you so much, Julie. And Julie, I have a question. Oh, Judge. Hello.
I'm just as surprised as you are.
She said if we had any questions, and before the guided meditation, Rory, do you have any questions about the topic?
Why did she say the same thing to him 5 times? I'm sorry.
To get the point across in the role play.
That's right. I felt sorry for Renee in that.
I know,
she had to read the same thing 5 times.
Well, I do have a question about that though, which is you said to be short and sweet and simple, but if the gaslighter keeps trying to engage you and needle you and prod you, because they're trying to manipulate your emotions, they don't want you to be upset with them, they don't want you to judge them. How do you break that off, particularly if you're living with this person or if you're close with this person, maybe it's even a colleague you have to see. Do you at some point just say to them, I refuse to discuss this anymore with you?
Yeah. Yes, you do, because you have the power and control to end the conversation whenever you want to or need to. Gaslighters can be very persistent and tenacious. And really, it's about that boundary, right? Testing that boundary. Gaslighters, narcissists don't like a boundary. So when you do establish that, yeah, they're going to buck against it and buck against it. You just hold it. And at some point, if they are not really taking in what you are saying, you have every right to just say, you know what, I'm not going to discuss this anymore. And you just keep it that simple in terms of, I will not discuss this anymore.
I do have a question. And that is, you've mentioned that gaslighters usually don't fall out of that pattern. They usually stay that way. They don't evolve and become better people. They usually just continue to do that. So if someone were to react and set boundaries, as Renee did in the role play that we did, would that gaslighter move on, or do you think they would change?
That's a really good question. I've been thinking about that a lot in preparing for this episode and even the last episode. I'm inclined to say yes, but my other side to the answer is, I think the more that we all know about gaslighting and what it looks like and sounds like, the more of us can put up those buffers.
Well, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks. A narcissist, you can't teach them not to love themselves as much as they do. So, yeah, my personal feeling would be, yeah, they would just find somebody else who would accept the gaslighting and become their puppet.
Yeah. And that's where I think for the empaths of the world, it's so important to read up on it and to read up about how to really build some walls, just to protect. Like I was saying, earlier in the show, I have had to learn over and over, different phases in my life, that it's okay to do that. It is okay to have a boundary and hold the boundary. And it's taken me decades to be unapologetic about it. But I think that's the other side of it, is the empaths of the world really have to own it and do what you can to still be an empath, but also know the red flags.
And not be upset when that particular type of person moves on. I mean, they were not good for you in the first place because they were narcissistic and they were gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I never like to paint such a doom and gloom picture, but I'm only saying that because gaslighting is so connected to narcissism, and typically treatment for narcissism is not very successful. It takes a lot of deep work. And sometimes just by the nature of narcissism, it's like, I don't want to look at my flaws. It's everybody else's fault. So, it's just the reality of it. Oh, let's see. Facebook user, was Edith gaslit by Archie? That's an interesting question. Or was he just being a sexist, which can also be tied to gaslighting? What if someone is actually gaslighting themselves in your direction? What do you mean by that? I'm not sure I understand that question. I have seen articles about, like in Psychology Today, about, can you gaslight yourself? And I think that's just an overuse of the term. When we have self-doubt and we have negative self-talk, is what it's called. It's not gaslighting. It's just this negative self-talk that can develop throughout childhood, through different upsetting experiences, abandonment, attachment issues. So, but I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. So, Facebook user, can you ask or just clarify what you mean? Julie, yes, they focus on you and make you feel like everything is your fault. They want control over you because they can't control themselves. That's a great point. That is a very good point. Bridget, Renee makes a good point. Sometimes we live with the gaslighter, or they are family or work colleagues. Yes, I have experienced both. I truly have. And, nothing hurts worse than when it's within your own family. And, it is just having that awareness of it. And again, it's those emotional boundaries. And I also think adjusting the expectation. You are never going to get what you need from that gaslighter. Plain and simple. So I think that alone helps you detach a little bit from being so tied to how they respond and how they judge you. Julie, one of my ex-boyfriends was always stalking me at my job and home and came over and did and did a knife and fist job on my brand new car. Narcissists will do that. Full-blown narcissist will do that. I should probably do an episode on narcissism, huh? But there's a rage in narcissism. It's not anger, it's rage. And Julie, what you're describing, that is just full-blown rage coming from a narcissist. And thank you, Sandy. I saw your comment there. Someone who has been gaslit and believes it in themselves. Oh, I see what you mean. Yes. Someone who has been gaslit and believes it in themselves. So they internalize it, they take it in and believe what the gaslighter's saying and integrates it into discussion with others. Yeah, it can happen. I think there's a line there, which we'll get into, I think, in the discussion panel, but this is just my professional and personal opinion, is I really believe that gaslighting is intentional. I think there can be other behaviors that are not intentional. And a good way to gauge it is if someone gaslights you and you just point out, you don't say, you're gaslighting me. You're just going to get into, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You just don't bother. Don't even use that term with somebody. But again, just say, something like, those are my feelings. I have a right to state my feelings. I have a right to explore this topic with you. I have a right to discuss this situation with you. And if they are truly receptive to you setting that boundary, to me, that's not what a gaslighter does. A gaslighter will just pick away at what you're saying. So I hope that makes sense. What if you know a gaslighter who is doing this to a sibling? Ooh, wow. Well, my first bit of just, for I'm not supposed to give advice, but I mean, a definite suggestion is do not reinforce what the gaslighter is doing. There is nothing more painful. I speaketh from experience. There's nothing more painful than when somebody reinforces the gaslighter. The best thing you can do is not do that. The best thing you can do is let that sibling know, hey, I see this. I see this is going on. I've got your back. That is truly the best thing you can do. You can't necessarily stop it, but you can certainly let that person who is being gaslit know that they're not crazy. It's just not them. It's like, yeah, I see what's going on here. Don't worry about it. I'm with you. Let's see. John Phipps, Mr. Poetry Man. It's important to also know that sometimes we are the gaslighter. My therapist and I are going over this right now. Okay. Well, you know what? Okay. Well, good for you, John. And make sure that that's what it is. That's all I can really say about that. Make sure that that's what it is. And then, if it is, ask yourself, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Thank you for being so open there, John. Julie, let me see here. I left all of my, okay. Julie, I really hope that you are healing from all of those experiences. I truly do. They know you love them unconditionally. That's how it's tricky. Well, that's a good point, Sandy. But the thing about a gaslighter is there are conditions. There are major conditions to the attention and acceptance they will give you. So to love someone like that unconditionally, you got to fortify that, and you have some conditions yourself so that you are protecting yourself. You've got to protect yourself in those situations. Yeah, John, be careful about when you say gaslighting yourself. Again, I'm just going to call that self-doubt. I'm going to call that negative self-talk. I really don't think we can gaslight ourselves. I just think, again, that's kind of an overused term in that regard. There's a whole school of thought that's been around for a really, really long time. Freud talked a lot about defense mechanisms and how we can kind of, in a way, self-sabotage, but it's not gaslighting. Those are other things going on there. So Jamie Bennett, who's going to be part of our panel coming up very soon. And in fact, let me see here. They are hot and cold, meaning they pay attention to you when it suits them, and then they go cold. Absolutely. That's so well put, Jamie. That's where those conditions are. A gaslighter has a whole list of conditions. They do not love unconditionally. I love how you put that. Is self-doubt more like imposter syndrome? Yeah. Yes. That's a good question, Em. You had such great comments and questions, and I'm aware of the time, and I want to make sure we get to the guided meditation, which is about 8 minutes. And I'm just going to do very short closing words. We're going to take a short break, about 6 minutes, and then we're going to come back with the live panel, which I'm really looking forward to. And this is a boundary setting meditation. Again, it's about 8 minutes long. If you can, it's evening time. Hopefully you're not in your car driving. So if you can, just make yourselves comfortable, sit back and enjoy this meditation.
Let us begin. You have all the time in the world to get yourself comfortable, to allow your body to become as comfortable as it would like to be. In this very time, relaxation is not the goal, but comfort is. And just take a few nice deep breaths in and out, feeling yourself settling in, listening to the sound of my voice and your body becoming more comfortable and ready to begin. And as you are breathing, you begin to become aware of a beautiful light, a golden light hovering over the top of your head. It is bright, warm, sparkling, and loving. And as you notice this beautiful, sparkling golden light, it begins to cascade down over your entire body, from the top of your head, neck, down to your shoulders, arms, your hands, all the way down to your fingertips, your heart, lungs, stomach, this beautiful golden light cascading down over your abdomen, hips, thighs, your knees, cascading all the way down to your ankles and feet, the tips of your toes and the soles of your feet. This is a light of love, clarity, and protection. And nothing can penetrate this light without your conscious permission. And this permission is only given when it is for your highest and greater good, your highest and greater emotional health. Now take a few moments, bathing in the golden twinkling light, feeling its warmth, its love, its wisdom, and its protection. And what is beautiful about this golden light is that you can see through it. You can see past the light as if you are an observer of what is on the other side, simply because you are an observer right now. You are an observer of what is on the other side of your golden veil of protective light. Now just allow yourself to see someone or a situation where setting a clear emotional boundary had been difficult, or maybe you begin to see something that you know is needing to be dealt with in the near future. Because yes, in this time we're going to get just a little work done as you are bathing in this beautiful golden sparkling light. Observe this person or situation and just simply observe, because you are watching from the golden veil of protective light. And nothing needs to be done but breathe and observe. And as you breathe and observe, something may come to mind that would be optimal. Something may come to mind that would be optimal for setting a clear emotional boundary. Some brief words, perhaps, or actions. If words are coming to mind, they are simple and few, emotionally neutral, straight and to the point of what needs to be said. If there are actions, they are simple and few, emotionally neutral, straight and to the point of what needs to be done. And as you breathe and observe what comes to mind, there is also that knowing that you cannot control how the other person responds, and this is okay. because what matters is that you are drawing that line for you. What is acceptable and not acceptable. And there is great power by simply doing this. It's like a lion. A clear emotional boundary is simply a clear emotional boundary, and it is not reliant on how others respond. A clear emotional boundary is not defined by others, judged by others, or up for debate with others. It just simply is. How others respond is simply information for you about them and does not define you in any way. That's good news. And just take a few deep breaths. Take in that relief and that wisdom. And as you take a few deep breaths, it is all with the knowing that by drawing a clear boundary, you are taking care of yourself. You are teaching this person or others how to treat you. And you are also giving them the opportunity to learn and to grow. It is an opportunity for them to take or to not take. This is not your responsibility. Your responsibility ends right after you draw that clear boundary and holding that boundary. And just take a few more moments in the space that you are in, taking a few more nice big deep breaths in and out. This golden light is always around you, and that wisdom is always with you as you breathe now and as you breathe in the future. And when you feel ready, you can very slowly open your eyes, fully present, awareness fully present in the room. And the good news is that you may now find it a little easier setting emotional boundaries because you just had a little practice session. When we visualize in our minds what is optimal, our subconscious does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So try this type of visualization anytime you need. And each time you do, setting emotional boundaries with others will become easier and easier.
Well, welcome back. That was a little shorter of a guided meditation than what we normally do here on the pause button. Sometimes they have a short meditation is just as productive. So I hope you all enjoyed that. And I do just want to repeat that, again, our subconscious doesn't know the difference between when we're visualizing, like I said in the meditation, what is optimal, what is an optimal way to set an emotional boundary. When you can visualize that and really experience that in your mind, then when you need to do it, and when your eyes are open and you're going about your day, it really will become easier because your subconscious already thinks, well, we've done this already. So it wouldn't be like a first time. And again, setting a boundary, holding a boundary is not dependent on how that person responds. I think that is just so key. I struggled with this for a really long time of, well, then how the person responds, well, then I've got to adjust myself. And it's like, no, you hold that boundary and that other person is just going to have to deal with it. That's just plain and simple. And I think a lot of us there in the audience have learned the hard way, just like me. And I want to end with Julie, you put up something very beautiful. No one deserves to be mistreated. Absolutely. No one deserves to be mistreated. Sometimes we carry wounds and we think we deserve it, but no one deserves to be mistreated. So do stand up for yourself. And you can sometimes do it very simply and concisely. And I hope that's what you got from today's episode. Just real briefly, we will be back in 2 weeks. It's actually going to be on Valentine's Day. I'm really excited about this. We're going to take a real pause and talk about, what do you want to give back to yourself? You know, we've talked a lot about boundaries, but our Valentine's Day show, which will be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, it's all going to be about giving back to you. What do you want to fill that space with? So we will be doing that. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Rory, so much. I love working with the both of you so much. You both are just awesome people, awesome humans. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a very short break. We've got about a 6-minute intermission, and then we're going to come back with the live discussion panel. So do stay tuned. Take a break, take a pause. We're just going to run an intermission reel, and we will see you in about 6 minutes. Welcome back. I hope you all had a nice break. And like that intermission reel says, you have the power to protect your peace. And if you did not get a chance to watch the primetime edition of the Pause Button about emotional boundaries, um, do watch it, because that's what it is about. You have the power to protect your peace. We all do. I feel so passionate about that. So, welcome to our live panel discussion. Just a quick kind of backstory is a few people on the Cosmos team thought it would be a good idea to have a live panel discussion just to take the topic of gaslighting and what to do about it, just to take it a little further by having a discussion. So we had a trial panel actually last Tuesday, and it was just such a very impactful time, I know, for me. And I know others. We talked about gaslighting. We kind of just batted some ideas around and talked about experiences, maybe what it is, what it isn't. And it really was just, it was like a 2-hour panel. It was only supposed to be an hour. But I do promise this will be possibly about 45 minutes. I'm going to try to keep it to that. So I can say for myself that when we had the trial discussion, my understanding of gaslighting became clearer. And I would like to bring some of the fine Cosmos folks on. I'm just going to call panel A. We're going to make this sound really official and formal here, just to talk about gaslighting and did our perceptions and understanding change after we all talked about it last week. So how about fresh off of work? Mr. David W. Myers, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well, yes. Yeah. Did you have a few minutes to rest after work?
I did. I caught the very last part of the show.
Oh,
Or
good.
the other portion of the show.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad, because I know you were kind of under the gun with working late.
Yeah.
So, how about David? Let's have Renee and Rory join us. And hello, hello.
Hello.
What I'd like to do, maybe David, we could start with you. Is did your understanding of gaslighting, did it change after we kind of had that trial discussion, or did it not? I would just like to hear your
I think
thoughts on that.
it did become a little clearer. It's such a sort of there's a sort of obscurity to the topic. I think that's why it's such an interesting topic. So it's probably it's difficult to just define in a very short, like description. So like our test discussion that we did before, that definitely clarified a lot for me, like especially about the intention involved with it. And I found it really interesting when we got into taking it outside of personal relationships and looking at things like how there's gaslighting in society, like in politics. I think an example was brought up, and I don't even want to say even a celebrity's name in this situation, but somebody was blasted by TMZ, and they showed several pictures of this person changing their outfit throughout one day, but then they added the implication that meant that she was perhaps mentally unstable, and that that to me that was like maybe the best example, because it just kind of clarifies what it is really like that you're doing. You're taking all these pieces of like, you're taking a bunch of factual information and you're sprinkling in some lies into the mix, and that makes it really digestible for most people, and people absorb that and question
Yeah,
themselves or other
yeah.
situations.
It's kind of, in a way, easier for people to buy into the lie if there's, half kind of truths being told and it's, distorted. And yet you touched upon, the intentionality, and that's what really was clarified for me even more, because, I came into this whole experience, still grappling with. Is it intentional? Is it unintentional? And I really am just starting to hone in on that more official definition that it is intentional, because it's cruel. It is cruel behavior toward another human being. And I don't know. Can people be unintentionally cruel? I don't know. I don't think so.
I mean,
Um,
it's like, I think maybe a lot of people, once they gather what this is, it's easy to kind of like look back at your own actions and maybe question, like, well, was I gaslighting somebody in this situation? Or, so that was kind of the other thing. It kind of, it made me question things a little bit, but just when we discuss the intent of it and the type of people that,
yeah,
like, for that, it's mostly going to be narcissists that I don't know, that seemed to help a little bit.
yeah, that's like a lack of remorse
Yeah.
for engaging in that behavior. Yeah, Rory, it looks like you want to chime in here.
Well, yeah. Again, if they're a narcissist, they might even have a mindset that they're helping the other person. Oh, they need me. They're very naive and they need someone like me to guide them. And I mean, it's very possible. I mean, being if they're a narcissist, and again, these two seem to go hand in hand, as we've said a couple of times. They might actually feel like, well, yeah, this person is supposed to be with me and they're supposed to do what I say. And if they do what I say, we're both going to be happy. And, they need
Yeah,
to listen to me. That kind of thing.
yeah. And to buck that system, there's usually a price to be paid, for the person that bucked that kind of the gaslighter. You know what? I forgot to do something
Oops.
that I need to do before we continue the conversation. I
Talk
need
amongst
to read,
yourselves.
I need to read the disclaimer. I'm so sorry that I forgot. I had it right in front of me.
And then
And I
we bumped you down to an A minus.
Oh, darn it. So, yes, this part of the panel, this information on this program is for entertainment and education purposes. We're all learning from each other. And I think we learn by sharing our experiences and our thoughts. It's just we're generating food for thought, that all the discussions are our opinions, but based on our own experience. And although we strive to bring you accurate information, nothing discussed constitutes professional, legal, or medical advice. Let us continue the conversation.
But I
Covered.
did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
But yeah, Rory, did your understanding of gaslighting, did it change at all when we had our trial discussion?
I think it's pretty much the same. Again,
Hmm.
I understand it a lot better now because of all the time that you've given to this topic. Definitely. As I think I said before, I was actually accused of gaslighting by somebody. And now I know for sure that no, that wasn't the case, that I was just, I may have been mistaken in my facts, but I don't think I was gaslighting.
Yeah, it gets overused. And I know we
Mm.
talked about that in our trial panel. It's kind of a term that gets thrown out, just almost like how, ADD would get thrown out years ago. It's just kind of
Mm.
an overused label. Yeah, and yeah, a big part of focusing on gaslighting on the show and in this panel is to really help people maybe not overuse it, because then it becomes like crying wolf, doesn't it?
We live in a bit of a world of self-diagnosis, but also
Yeah,
diagnosing others. I read
right.
something on Google today. I definitely have ADHD.
Yeah, yeah, I do think it definitely does get kind of thrown around a lot. And yeah, Rory, like you were saying, it's sort of like you just had the facts wrong, but it doesn't mean you were intentionally trying to control somebody. Big difference.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what's funny was I was not familiar with the term when when the accusation happened. So I was like, "Ooh,
Mm.
gaslighting. What is that?" Yeah, I didn't even know what it was at the time. This was a couple of years ago. So
I probably heard it a whole lot before I even had any clue what it was, and
yeah.
I've been accused of it as well.
Yeah, yeah. When, if somebody's, it's sort of like, I think remorse is a big indicator.
Hmm.
If you realize, oh my God, I hurt your feelings, I'm so sorry, there's remorse there. But with gaslighting, there's no remorse. It's like, it's almost this kind of,
Hmm.
I gotcha,
Yeah.
kind of maniacal kind of experience. Renee, I would love for you to chime in there.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
learned a lot, certainly from our pre production panel that was not available to the public because it got me to think about the overuse, the underuse. I think I was using it in ways that were not clinically accurate. So now I see it in places where I didn't see it, and I no longer see it I once saw it. So it kind of reshaped my entire view of it. And when talking about the media, it's interesting what David talked about with TMZ. Like right now, I'm reading Prince Harry's memoir, and he talks about how the paparazzi rewrite, will rewrite someone's entire narrative, and the
Hmm.
world will go along with that. And thinking about what you talked about, Diane, with manipulation and control, and that this is intentional, it seems like it's an intentional rewrite of somebody's personality, biography, even telling them that their feelings are inaccurate and trying to sort of change the code of the human being. So it's much more insidious than I ever gave it credit for because once you hijack a person's narrative, you've really hijacked their opportunities, their social standing, their reputation, what they think they're capable of. You can almost dim the light or turn off that inner light in that spirit, which is extremely dangerous. And for me, it makes me worry about all of the beautiful people with beautiful plans and dreams that might have been truncated or squashed out by
yeah.
someone making you second guess yourself simply to serve their needs, their status quo, and their comfort level, maybe. They don't want you to make your own decisions because they are enlisting you in their in a servitude, an obsequious state. And the worst part is that a lot of times you're not even aware. It's not like someone coming to you saying, I'm going to hijack you as a person and take control of you.
Hmm.
It's almost like they're doing it with this saccharine sweet, oh, I'm looking out. Oh, they're there. You're just not feeling well. Oh, you got it wrong. And I think everyone, no matter how powerful or confident you think you are, I think that under the right circumstances, we can all fall prey to that. And so after our initial discussion, I became more finely tuned and hyper aware of instances this might be happening, and also making sure that I'm not, even though it wouldn't be intentional, I'm also now auditing myself to make sure I'm not doing anything that's a gaslighting adjacent. I don't want to ever hijack somebody's personal brand or dreams or personality identity at all. And one question I would have is if you see anything, given how closely this ties in with someone's identity and narrative, I have a question about the LGBTQ community or identity, people who are struggling to figure out their identity and their family or maybe media is telling them something different. Can gaslighting be interwoven at all in those type of concerns?
Actually, do you have an example? Because I'm following you. I feel like I need an example just to get a clearer understanding of that.
Sure, it would be like if somebody came out to their parents as being gay, and their parents would say, well, that's not true at all. That's just, you're getting influenced. You don't really feel that way. I remember you having crushes on little girls. There's no way that's your identity.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's a good
Yeah,
example. Wow.
very good. I actually had that happen years ago in my practice, and it was heartbreaking. to have a client come see me who, um, you know, really wanted to, felt like a man in a woman's body. And the mother got involved, and it just, it hurt my heart so badly to hear things like that, and to be an advocate for my client, to come against that, there was no getting through. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What wound up happening over time was that, he had to separate. He had to leave and live his life. Yeah.
And I can see that also being just in a person's identity of maybe maybe they always felt like an artist, but maybe their spouse or their parents or a best friend says, no, that's not really who you are. That's
Mhm.
a stupid idea. That won't make money. Who do you think you are? You don't have any talent. That's not what you're good at. And
Yep.
then slowly that becomes, it's almost like, again, they're rewriting your code of what's possible for you, and your life just veers off.
I like the way you put rewriting the code. I really think that hones in on just how laser focused a gaslighter can just get to that core. It's like intelligence just being used in a very destructive and selfish way. Yeah. Yeah. That is an excellent point. And, as we were talking about too, how it is on a larger scale. This one celebrity that we were discussing last week, in a way, sort of gaslighting the public to see this celebrity as crazy. That's quite, quite isn't the word. It's extremely damaging. Yeah. Yeah. And just how many people are gaslighted in that way in public. So we all go, they're crazy. They're, a couple screws loose. Don't take them seriously, when in fact they probably are a decent, stable, smart, intelligent, thriving human being. Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems so insidious too, because over time, especially if you're living with this person or have close, frequency with their presence, they're going to make you second guess yourself over and over again, to the point where now their plan for you, or their beliefs, opinions, and philosophies have been sort of injected into you slowly, and you've become this carbon copy of that person. So your boundaries, every person is supposed to have their own individual boundaries. That's not easy for everyone. Some people are very susceptible to taking on the forms, shapes, opinions of people around them. So I could see a gaslighter being able to manipulate someone else's choices, identity, personality, humor,
Mhm.
interests, talents, and just close all those doors for them. And it's just so sad, because who would win in that situation? So I'm definitely taking it much more seriously, as
Yeah.
rather than just a catchphrase after this. And I hope that everybody's really listening up to make sure,
I do too.
not
Yes.
just the person who's being victimized, but also constantly being sure, even if it's unintentional, it wouldn't be actual gaslighting, like you said, but just make sure that you're allowing people those freedoms and respecting everybody as an individual, even if they're your family member, even if you're financially tied. That person needs to have their autonomy. Every human being is entitled as a human right to make their own choices, even if it's something that you're not a fan of. You control your decisions, but you're not controlling anyone else's decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, we are thriving, beautiful individual humans. Yeah. And we have the right to live the life that we, I'm kind of just still thinking about the coded word. I really like that, to fulfill our purpose versus somebody else's purpose. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think the thing I think that also hit home with me even more after our trial discussion was, if we do see it, um, it doesn't really help to call it out, because it's just going to turn into, you're just going to get in the hamster wheel with that person. but just don't reinforce what they're doing, and make sure that other person knows that you know. There's just something about that is incredibly healing. So if we see it, we really can't stop it, but we can certainly support the person and give love to the person that we see is being gaslit, because it really is a very isolating feeling when somebody's being gaslit. They feel trapped, they feel isolated, and if somebody reaches across and goes, "Hey, I see what's going on, I've got you," that is the best thing that anybody can do, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you all so much. Does anybody have any final words before we move on to our next panel? We're going to move into more specific experiences. But does anybody have any final words?
I don't have any further contribution.
Okay.
I think I've said my piece.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to the next for panel B.
Yeah, panel B. Thank you all so much. You gave so much of your time, and I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. Again, we had a trial discussion that was only supposed to be an hour. We wound up going about 2 hours. So I really appreciate everybody's time who, has been able to participate. So, panel B is really, we have M. Farwell, we have Jamie Bennett that will come on very shortly, in about a minute. Got a sneak peek. They very graciously just agreed to share more specific experiences, because I think it's really important that we all get as much information about the different scenarios that gaslighting can take place. It's insidious. It's pervasive. It just doesn't, exist in, romantic relationships or work relationships. It exists in any type of relationship that we could ever imagine. And I do want to say, before we bring Em and Jamie on, Brittany Shazer was supposed to be a part of the panel. And actually, she was one of the people that had suggested the panel. Her son is ill. She is taking care of her son, ear infection, ouch. But I just want to make sure you all know that Brittany was very key in suggesting and as far as having this panel take place. And one of the things that Brittany had shared with me today was, and I think it's so important, because one of my questions for panel B is, did you have a light bulb moment? Was there a moment when you finally realized, oh my God, I'm being gaslighted? Because it is a very incremental type thing. So what was the light bulb moment? And one of the things that Brittany had shared was she started to get ill. She started to get physical symptoms. And that certainly is an indicator. Our bodies don't lie, and our gut doesn't lie. And sometimes those symptoms will become very strong to get our attention that something is going on. So without any further ado, you got a sneak preview of panel B. Let's officially bring them on, M. Farwell and Jamie Bennett. Thank you both so much for being here. It's good to see your faces.
I was muted, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, so you both have such, really valuable stories, and I think enlightening stories to share. And really that first question is, did you have a light bulb moment? Was there a moment when all of a sudden you went, oh my God, I'm being gaslit? And
So for me,
Jamie,
on my medical side of it is what I'm gonna basically was asked to talk about. But so coming off that, yeah, one day I was sitting there and I was so sick. I was critically ill. I was in the hospital, and again, I was told there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. So I finally, I had trouble with my heart and just I kind of crashed, and all of a sudden they're like, "Wait a minute, something's wrong." And so after that, it was like I had an epiphany, because after that I was like, "No more. I am not going to be told there is nothing wrong with me ever again." Like, I will fight tooth and nail. I will change doctors, but it's a struggle. It's still a struggle.
So you were being told that your physical symptoms were nothing. You were being told that it was just what, like your
So
imagination or
before I got my first diagnosis, there's a whole story there, but I went 5 years before I was diagnosed. And the woman doctor who diagnosed me said that it's like 60% difference in diagnosis time between men and women. And she
Mhm.
said most women, when you read their charts, and I'm not saying men doesn't happen to men, but I was asked to give my side of it, and well, I'm a woman.
Absolutely, yes.
um, and same with minorities, they struggle even worse,
Yes.
especially if it's a minority woman. So,
Yes.
I was told, I was in my 30s, I had kids, so I was told, it's mom life. Women go through pain, hormones, maybe it's early menopause, you're stressed out, try yoga.
Oh,
Like, I was given all of that. That is what I was told. And I ended
mm,
up getting really bad. I couldn't even stand up, and we had to go to the hospital, and things spiraled from there. And I ended up getting my diagnosis, which was multiple sclerosis. And
mhm.
then, as you know, 10 years later down the road, I went through all that again, saying something's wrong. And I kept being told, "You have multiple sclerosis." And I said, "No, you're not listening to me. There's something more wrong than what you gave me. Like, something's not right." And
Yeah,
then
medical
I
gaslighting.
got critical again. I was 88 pounds
Oh,
before they finally sent me to Boston and diagnosed me correctly. And the treatment that they gave me all those years destroyed all my organs. So here I am now, battling that. So, I
oh,
mean,
yeah.
I wanted to mention, Renee had asked about the LGBT community, and I had seen in the comments, I think it was Pan had said, put up like a definition of gaslighting and saying it's not overnight. I agree, but I
Mhm.
do think it can be a one-time thing from multiple people. So, like in medical
Mhm.
gaslighting,
Yeah,
I think a doctor or a group, male
yeah.
doctors in general, can gaslight an entire community. They can
Oh,
gaslight
yeah.
women, they can gaslight minorities, they can gaslight, and women doctors too. It doesn't matter. I've
Right.
seen my husband when he had his cancer went through similar, but of course he was diagnosed much quicker. But yeah, I mean, so it might
Yeah.
not be overnight with one person, but like
Mhm.
for me, it was every doctor I saw for years, and my regular doctors, over and over again. I was told there was nothing wrong, everything's normal, it's in your head. Um, and I do have a question for you, because you start to feel like you're crazy, right? They make you feel like you're
Mhm.
questioning everything. Am I sane? And I know the word crazy can be offensive, but for me, it has a different meaning than mental health. So for
Mhm.
me, being told, I literally had somebody tell me that's crazy, which what do I hear?
Mhm.
That I'm
Mhm.
crazy, right?
Right.
So for me, the difference between
Mhm.
being made to feel crazy and having a mental health issue is diagnosis, treatment, referrals. None of that happens when you're being gaslit. It's all in your head. There's something wrong psychologically. It's emotional, it's hormonal, but there's no treatment, no, they don't send you anywhere. It just ends there. So
Right. Right.
I don't really get offended when I hear the word crazy, because that's what I hear when somebody says that about being
Oh,
gaslit.
sure. Yeah, I don't get offended by that word either. And you raise, I think, just a whole area here for us to become more aware of, and that is medical gaslighting. And I have seen it in my profession of mental health gaslighting, and it tends to take place with diagnosing and misdiagnosing
Yeah.
women, mostly
So I
women.
have a funny, me with my funny things that stick in my head. I took 6 years of Latin, right? So we used to do a lot of word charting, and this stuck with me. And I was probably a junior in high school when I learned it. But the word hysteria is the Greek word for
Mhm.
uterus.
Yeah,
Like, literally, women
yeah.
were told that they were put in places for hysteria, just for
Right.
being angry or speaking up or having a sexual desire, or, like, "You're
Oh,
hysterical.
absolutely,
Here's a
and,
happy pill. Lock her up."
there's very sad research out there, that African American women tend to be misdiagnosed more than, us white ladies here, and the most common misdiagnosis is schizophrenia. They're not schizophrenic, but it's just this it's a
It's emotional.
very yeah, it's a
It's
very,
emotional. Yeah, I mean, I
tragic
could go on and on. I don't wanna take
situation.
up all Jamie's time too, but this is a topic that
Oh,
literally.
absolutely. No, I think what you're raising is very, eye-opening, I think,
So
to
what
a lot
Renee
of
was
people, but I
saying.
do wanna move on to Jamie
Okay,
here.
go ahead, go ahead. I was gonna mention about Renee's thing, but it's fine, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we will circle
Yeah, no,
back
go ahead.
most definitely. Um, Jamie, I'm wondering with you, was there a moment when you realized, again, that same question of, "Oh my god, I'm being gaslit here."
Yeah, I'm going to talk about my ex, and I'm a pretty open person. I've been very open on my show, The Warrior Within. Shameless plugging, I guess.
Which is coming back in March, right?
Yeah, it's coming back. It's coming back in February. So,
Oh,
um,
February, okay.
but yeah, my ex did it to me. And like everything was normal, everything was okay, we were friends. He seemed perfectly normal. And then once he got the engagement ring on my finger, that's when it began. And I started noticing it more when, before we got engaged, he would tell me, "Oh, you're beautiful. You look good in that shirt." He'd give me all the compliments. And then after we got engaged and he secured me, I guess, that's when it started happening. And I started noticing it because I was bragging about losing weight. I was kind of a bigger gal, and I started losing weight, and I was excited about that. And I told him, and he's like, no, you
Mhm.
haven't lost anything. And he started putting me down. Like, he started making me feel like I was crazy, like I was imagining things. He would isolate me
Mhm.
from our mutual friends. The red flags should have been popping up, but this was my first serious relationship. So I didn't have any other relationships to base it off of. Like, I didn't have anything. I was a naive small town girl who had been sheltered my whole entire life. So this was like the first time that I had gotten out in the big world. And this was the first serious relationship that I had ever had. And once I noticed that, yeah, this is happening. He's putting everything down about me. He's making fun of me. He's making fun of my friends. Like, I had a lot of guy
Mhm.
friends. That's just how I am. I had a lot of
Yeah.
guy friends because I'm a musician. I play guitar. So, I'm naturally going to gravitate toward having guys for friends, I guess. And he would put down my guy friends, like he would show jealousy. We had broken up like probably 2 or 3 times, and I went back to him because that was my first boyfriend, my first serious relationship. And I just thought, okay, maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I got it in my head, and I was like, no, once I finally broke up with him, I was like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. It's just not. And I had, a lot of faculty members on campus because I went to a religious university. I went to a Catholic university. I had a lot of faculty members on campus who helped me. I would talk to them about it and they would help me. And I had a really, really good best friend that said, no, you need to get out, you need to get away from this person because this is what's happening. And like they really, really helped me. And when I say that, you know, music saved my life, guitar saved my life, I really mean that. Not that I would have done anything to harm myself, but it got me out of that dark place and got me back on the path of realizing that I'm worthy, that I can accomplish things in life.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, you raised so many key like elements about gaslighting. I mean, just almost textbook stuff, right? That you went through, and it's there's such an isolating factor, right? And it's incremental. It's just sort of over time, and I had also experienced, just like those little put downs, and your friends are, this or that, and what you're doing. Oh, are you wearing your hair that way? Just all of that, like subtle kind of whittling away, and it really does over time have a horrible effect. And what would we have not done without the people, the people around us and friends that could see it and really go, "Hey, we've got you here."
Well,
Oh, that
what was really bad is like I reached out and said, I would kind of like to talk to a therapist because, I was really depressed. I lost like that whole thing that Brittany had mentioned of getting nauseous and sick. That started happening to me. Like he stayed with me and my parents during Christmas, and he did some really horrible things while my parents were not at home. They didn't witness it. But I started getting so sick, I couldn't hold my food down because of stress. I lost 30 pounds in like a month and a half. That's how bad it was. And I wanted to talk to a therapist. And so I reached out to the campus, people on campus, the right, right, right guidelines. And what was sad is my ex was a social work major, and the therapist that they set me up with was his professor for social work. And I can't have that. That's a conflict of interest
no.
because here I am talking about one of her students personally and all the horrible graphic details with his professor. I was like, this isn't going to work.
Mm,
She's not going to get me the help that I need because I'm talking
yeah.
about one of her students.
Right, right. So what did you do? Were you
I
able
started
to
I started reaching out to I went to a Catholic university and we had Franciscan friars. And the father, I'm not going to mention his name, but one of the fathers there, I was able to talk to him about it. I was able to talk about it to one of the campus ministry staff members, and they really, really helped me through this. Like I said, I had quite a few staff members that helped me through it. And my jazz professor, really, really helped me get through this whole ordeal because, he helped me to focus on playing jazz, and he would let me play solos and stuff. So I felt like a part of something bigger than myself, and it got me out of that dark place. I started getting better and I started realizing my self-worth and started feeling better about myself again.
art, creative expression is so important, isn't it? It really allows us to tap back into who we are. Yeah, yeah. Um, Em, I'd like to go back to you, and I think, I mean, you could do a whole series on what you have gone through medically and all of the gaslighting that you've endured, and I'm wondering, how have you? I don't know if healed is the right word, but how have you gotten to a place where you are at now? I mean, because gaslighting it's beyond toxic.
Yeah.
And then you have
So
the physical on top of it.
I don't I'm not in any place. I have to be honest. I'm not in a good place right now. So
Yeah.
right now, what happens is, so this
Mhm.
happens to you over time. And you had asked like what the moment was. And speaking about creativity, I started journaling. When my
Mhm.
therapist was like, journal all the time. And so I started looking back on my journal and going, wait a minute, why is he telling me I didn't say that? I said it right here. And that's another reason that got me to where I was like, it's not me, right? But
God.
yeah, I mean, I'm still there. I talk to a therapist twice a week because right now I need a surgery that I don't want. And so
Mm.
it's life or death. I got to have it done, but I've put it off for months because I can't even, I have to, it takes me forever just to get to a point where I can acknowledge needing it. And then because everything they've done really led me to where I am now, it was all wrong. So, um, yeah, I mean, I'm still there. I can say that there's things, tools I use now, so to speak. Like I write things down. I ask that thing if I feel uncomfortable with an answer I'm given or I don't agree with it.
Mhm.
I ask that it be documented in my chart. If
Mhm.
I go back and check my chart and it's not there, red flag. I need a new doctor. Right? If there are doctors that talk so fast that I can't. I don't
Mhm.
feel well. I can't comprehend it, and my PTSD is like off the charts being in the hospital. So I will ask if I can record it if I don't have somebody with me. You can always have somebody with you, guys. You can have somebody with you when it's a discussion or an
Mhm.
exam. You do not have to go alone. So do not let people make you feel like you have to do it by yourself because you don't. Obviously, there's some tests, and with COVID, that was a bit of a struggle. But if you have an illness that makes it difficult for you to remember, or anxiety, a mental illness, whatever it is, so that you can't comprehend what's being said to you, or consciously remember it and recall it when you need to process what needs to be done or to come back for the next appointment or whatever you have to do,
Yes.
you can have somebody with you because that's a disability. So it's no different than if you didn't speak English and you needed a translator. They have to allow you to have somebody with you. So I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
therapy, I twice a week I talk to a therapist. Right
Good.
now, I mean not forever, but
Yeah.
like right now because I
Yeah.
need that. I need her to keep saying to me, "What are we doing? We gotta keep talking about it. We gotta get you to make a decision." So,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
just
I
to
mean,
have
it
a
doesn't go
safe
away.
person or safe people to have that support, even if it's one person. And, and again, it's just like, about the isolation factor to have somebody with you so you are not isolated and having
Yeah.
to comprehend or having to deal with being gaslit.
Usually, if I have a doctor that, and I mean, it's not just male doctors. I just was asked on my experience, and so my
Mhm.
experience was the ones that there was also a bit of a. The other thing I would say to you is just because somebody says to you, "This is the best doctor in the state for whatever's wrong with you," I couldn't eat, and they sent me to the best GI doctor in the state of Maine, and he did Botox injections. I went in, and they went in and they did Botox injections, quite a few throughout my esophagus. Well, that is a huge no for what I have. So now I can't
Mm,
eat at all. So
mm,
just because they're the best doctor in the state doesn't mean they're the best doctor for you. So research on your own and don't be afraid to say, I think I need to get another referral. I mean, now I
yes.
drive 2.5 hours to Boston because that's where my team is and that I trust and that we've built over time. So I go a couple times a month sometimes back and forth to Boston,
Yeah.
sometimes more. I mean, because I trust them and they got me
Yeah.
where I'm at now to where I was at least stable for quite a long time up until this year. This year, kind of. And then
Yeah.
I just had COVID over Christmas and that really knocked me on my
Mm,
Easter. But
yeah.
yeah, so
And, sharing this, I think, is really helpful for people that we
advocate for
can't even
yourself.
see that will be watching and listening to this. And, medical gaslighting is a real thing. And, I see it in my profession, how diagnosis is sometimes, used, misused, a stereotype gets infiltrated. And I had shared this on a previous show. I'm trying to remember which one. But to me, this was almost gaslighting the entire world population here. The clinical diagnostic manual was up for reevaluation. I'm forgetting how many years ago now, over 3 years, the DSM-5, and they were going to take narcissism out of the diagnostic manual. And there was a big uproar because some people were seeing it as normal. We just need to accept that there's narcissistic personality disorder, and they create a lot of, trauma, and, there's a lot of arrogance, and it's toxic. And the uproar was, thank God, louder than the people that wanted to
Right.
take it out, and they left it in. And I just can't imagine if that were not left in the diagnostic manual, how
Well,
we would
it's
start to
similar what
normalize or be
Jamie was
forced to
saying.
normalize.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah,
So my saying that just because it's the best doctor in your state doesn't mean it's the best doctor for you, or just because it's the best doctor in New England doesn't mean it's the best doctor for you. Just because they're the best doctor in America doesn't mean they're going to be the best doctor for me. So always check.
right.
And it's the same thing like Jamie was saying. That therapist, they thought this is the best therapist for you, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
right.
It was so wrong, you know?
Yeah,
So
it
you
really
have
is
to,
like we have to
don't be afraid.
advocate for ourselves in
And
those
each
in those
other.
situations.
And each
Yes,
other.
yes, and each other. We just have just a few minutes here, and this might be a big task, I don't know, but I'm wondering if each of you could just sum up, what you would like our audience to know about, what might be helpful for them to know that you've learned from your journey so far.
So mine's easy. I would say advocate for yourself and don't be afraid. I have been known to walk into an emergency room, well, get wheeled into an emergency room and say, "Don't even come in my room until you've read my chart." I I
Good for
will look
you.
right at them
Yeah.
as, "Don't even come in until you've read my chart or spoke to my doctor." Or I've also been known to say, "The time you're spending with me, I'm paying your salary." Right? So I'm the boss right now. You need to listen to what I'm saying. And
I
I'm
love
very
that.
good with my doctors once we have that rapport of like I'm tough I'm advocating for myself. I'm not being a bitch. I'm advocating for myself. There's a difference, people. You can
Huge
advocate
difference.
for yourself. It's okay. That would be what I would say.
Yeah, Jamie.
I guess like the most important thing that I learned with my experience is to not let anybody tell you what you can and cannot accomplish in your life. Don't let them dim your light, take away your spark. Um, just know that you're worthy and you can do anything that you put your mind to. You just have to have that goal and you have to have the willpower to do it. If I let him control me, if I would have let him dim my light permanently, and if I would have let him tell me that I couldn't accomplish my dreams, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have the warrior within. That's a passion project. And the warrior within was birthed from, all my experiences that I've been through, including that one. So, like, if I would have let him control me, if I would have let him dim my light, I wouldn't be here. So, see the warning signs. If, something's dinging in your mind that, hey, this doesn't seem right, he or she or them is putting me down, you know, think about it. Take some time to reflect, get out of the situation and reflect if that's what you need to do.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you both so much. I feel like we could talk for 2 more hours. I really do. But thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time that you've given to this panel, and even last week, the 2 hours that we did spend.
It is a hot topic. People like it. I mean, not that they like it happening, but there's a lot to be said and a lot to learn about it, I think. I'm
I
still
think so
learning.
too. And in a way, I feel like we just kind of scratched the surface. And, again, I think it's just important that we not feel alone. I
Oh
just think
yeah,
that's so
absolutely.
important. Yeah. So thank you both so much. Oh, wow. That was, you know, just because of time. uh, but thank you all so much for watching. And, again, gosh, if I had parting words, it would be, if you feel isolated, if you feel trapped, if you feel like you are not good enough, you are good enough. There are people in this world, in this community that love you and will connect with you. Uh, in regards to this, what's come to light for me even more is just how pervasive gaslighting is, just how pervasive it just is in so many areas, if not all areas of life. You please don't beat yourself up if you find yourself in a situation. If you are trapped in a situation, please do not beat yourself up. It just means you are an empath, you are a caretaker, and somebody was just really good at roping you in. There can be deception in the beginning, trust building. You have an investment in the relationship, and before you know it, you're being cut down. That's kind of how a gaslighter will work. Self-compassion is so important. Connection is important. Knowledge is power. So again, you have the power to protect your peace. And I think I will leave you all with that line. You have the power to protect your peace. Power and peace. So I will see you all in 2 weeks, February 14th. We're going to be back at our regular time at 4:30 Eastern. And thank you all again, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.